All right, welcome to this module. And in this module, we are going to talk about the 6 factors of influence. I believe back in the 80s, this guy, Robert Cialdini, wrote this book, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. And inside of the book, he talked about 6 concepts that allow you to influence other people. And if you've never read the book or if you've never heard of it, this is going to be an introduction for you, and I'm also going to dive deep. If you already are familiar, we're going to go a little bit deeper and talk about real life examples that you can use in order to persuade other people. And so, first one is reciprocity. And so, there's something that happens with human beings where if you receive something, you feel obligated to repay, and a lot of times you actually feel like you need to pay more than what you received in the first place, right? So what'll happen is someone might buy you a meal when you're out and about, right? So here's an easy example, okay? Me and my business partner, we go to lunch often, like 3 days a week. And when we go out to lunch, I remember the first time that we went out, he bought us food. It was me, him, and another gentleman. He bought us food. And then ever since then, we have gone back and forth buying each other food, right? And sometimes he'll buy me a sandwich that's maybe $7, and then the next day we might go to a restaurant and it might cost $30, but it's still because of the reciprocal relationship there, we feel obligated to pay back those who do stuff for us, right? You literally have to be like a pretty messed up person not to feel some sense of reciprocation. And so reciprocity is one of the factors of influence. And so when you think about this and you're thinking about selling, right? Why do you think places give away free samples? That's why they set up those booths inside of Sam's Club where they give free samples, because the people then feel a sense of responsibility to reciprocate by buying the thing, right? It doesn't work 100% of the time, but it is a powerful factor of influence. So the next one we're going to talk about is authority. They used to do an experiment with people crossing the street, jaywalking, right? And so they would have a guy stand on the street corner, and then even though he didn't have a walk sign, or even though there was traffic going, he would start walking. Okay, and what the experimenters were doing, they wanted to see um, how many people would follow him across the street. And so when the guy was standing there and he was in normal clothes like jeans and a t-shirt or whatever, nobody would follow him. But then later they reset up the experiment and put the guy in a suit. The same guy put him in a suit, and when he would walk across the street, you would get people following him, right? There's something about being in a position of authority that makes us listen. It comes from our parents, right? It comes from teachers. The way our society is set up, we are taught that authority figures have power and we have to listen to them, and that's just the way our society is set up. And so if you're driving down the street and someone is trying to yell at you, pull over, you're probably not going to pull over, right? Especially if the person looks questionable, or if there's someone you don't know. But then if that person is a police officer, you're going to pull your ass over, right? Another thing is, why do you think that big companies use celebrity endorsements? Because if they put Brad Pitt on their commercial and Brad Pitt tells you how awesome Casio watches are, you're much more likely to listen to Brad Pitt, who you believe is an authority figure, versus someone who doesn't have that same type of presence. That's why, politicians are so powerful. That's why Donald Trump is so powerful, because of the fact that he has authority based on the fact that he's made a lot of money. So that makes him an authority figure. So people will take other things that an authority figure says as truth, even though it has nothing to do with the arena that they live in, right? So an example of that is people, they like on certain commercials, they'll put someone in like a doctor's jacket, right, with some glasses on, and the person will be a paid actor, and they'll even tell you on the bottom, this is not a real doctor, this is a paid actor, and the person will go on and they'll say, hey, Colgate is the #1 toothpaste recommended by doctors and medical authorities in the nation, right? And so even though you know it's fake, that image of the authority figure will still be enough to persuade people to take action. So the next one is authority. The third one that we're going to talk about is social proof. And social proof is very simple. When you go to Amazon.com and you're looking to buy something, how do you decide which one to buy? Right? It's not the specs. It's not the technical, description or any of that stuff. You're looking at stars and ratings, right? If something has less than 3 stars, you won't even consider it. You won't even consider it. And that is all social proof. Literally, we are social beings. They've done experiments where, like, if you're walking down the street and you look up at something, say there's like 10 people around you. If you look up at something, you'll get like two or three of the 10 to look up at what you were looking at. Like if you were just staring at the sky, you'll get 2 or 3 people to look up to the point where you're looking at. If you had 3 people standing there looking at the same spot, now you'll get like 80% of people walking by to stop and look at the same spot. If you have more than I think the number was like 9 or 10, if you have a group of 9 or 10 people that stop in the middle of the street and look up at a certain point in the sky, you will get like 95% of people to stop and look in the same point as they're walking by. What does that tell you? It tells you that the more people that are doing something, the more people that are paying attention to something, the more likelihood they will get others to join, right? That's where this group mob mentality comes in. That's why people, choose sides, and people make decisions based on what other people will think. It's due to social proof. And so that's why it's so powerful to have reviews, or it's so powerful to have testimonials, or have other people vouch for you. So that's the third one. The fourth one we're going to talk about is consistency. There's something called a cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is basically, have you ever been in a situation where you said something, but it wasn't what you really believed, and you felt like, you just kept thinking about it. You kept feeling like, damn, why did I do that? Why did I say that? It's not true. And it just kind of eats away at you, right? So us as human beings have a responsibility, like an internal gauge, right? Where if we are lying, if we say something and then later we get challenged on it and we don't really believe that, we will feel a sense of cognitive dissonance. And so if you can get someone to say something out loud, they're much more likely to go along with it in the future than if you don't get them to say it out loud. So the example here with consistency is if you can get someone to say something like, if you get someone to say, so do you believe that eating vegetables is good for you? Yes. And then later on, you make them some vegetables, and then you say, and they're like, oh no, I'm good, I don't want them. Then you say, I thought you said that eating vegetables was good. Well, you believe it was good for you. Then in order for them to go to disagree with you, they have to literally say that they were lying before, right? You put them in a position where someone either has to lie to themselves, or they have to move forward in the direction in which you say, right? That's the power of consistency. The next one is liking, right? We do things, we buy from people that we know, like, and trust. And liking is so powerful. Liking is so powerful that literally this has caused people to do crazy, crazy things. Like if you think about the whole Trojan War, and what was the girl's name? I forget her name. But you had the prince that stole the king's wife, right? And he liked her. The liking caused them to go to war and destroy their whole country and everything for liking, right? So liking is a powerful form of influence. If you can get people to like you, you can get people to do a lot of things for you. And then the last one is scarcity. What is scarcity? Scarcity is when there's a limited amount, right? Scarcity is when we feel like there's not a lot available. And so that's why you see when stores have sales, or when certain marketers have sales, they'll say limited time offer, or only 20 available, or this is going away in 72 hours, or if you leave this page, it disappears forever, right? Scarcity is a way of making people feel like there is not a lot available, and so they have to get it now, or they have to get one of the few that are available. And it's amazing how companies use this in everyday life, um, by creating scarcity of things that really aren't that scarce of a resource, right? So, like money, everybody feels like money is such a scarce resource, like it's hard to get money. Where's the money at? How am I going to make money? Da, 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 da. Everyone has that belief, but then when you peel back and you look at like the bigger picture, there's over $19 trillion circulating in our economy. So is money really a scarce resource? And the government can actually print it whenever they want. So is money really a scarce resource, or are they manufacturing scarcity in order to keep people in a state of scarcity, right? And there's two mindsets really that you can have in this world. This is beyond this lesson, but there's two mindsets that you can have in this world. One is scarcity, where everything is scarce, and if you don't get it now, you can never get it again. And this is the only woman in the world the perfect soulmate for me. And man, this if I don't take advantage of this opportunity, I might never get it again. That's scarcity. And the other mindset that you can adopt is called abundance. And abundance says there is plenty, there is more than enough to go around. Oh, like, hey, this relationship might not work out, but there's a billion other women in the world, or there's a billion other men in the world that I can date, right? Or you might say, man, this opportunity, you know, might not work, but there's going to be a billion other opportunities in my life. And the crazy thing is, whatever you believe is what your reality is, right? And it's not a woo-woo thing. I don't want to get it too far into this, but understand scarcity is a powerful motivator, and scarcity will cause people to do all kinds of things, like from robbing people to lying to cheating to stealing. All of these things come from a scarcity mindset. And so these are the six factors of influence that you can literally use in order to persuade others. And so really quick before we end this lesson, I want to talk about how you can actually use each of these in real life, to get people to take it, to do or to believe something, right? So number one, reciprocity. Simple. Give someone something that they perceive as valuable. Remember, value and perceived value are different, right? If I give you a quarter, that's, value of that is 25 cents. But if I told you that this was the first quarter ever made in U.S. history, and it was actually one that Abraham Lincoln had on his desk for the 20 years prior to becoming president, and it was on his desk all the way up until the day he died. And then it went into a museum, and the owner of the museum was going out of business, so he gave me the coin as a token of appreciation for our friendship. And so I decided that I want to give someone else the opportunity to enjoy the coin and let it motivate you, and remember how powerful being the first is, and all this stuff, right? And so I can tell you a story that increases the perceived value, and I might be able to sell you a 25-cent quarter for $10,000. You know what I mean, or whatever it is. So that's the power of reciprocity. The next one is authority, right? So how can you utilize authority in order to get people to take an action? Well, it's very simple. What does an authority figure look like in your arena, right? In your arena. So as a football coach, what does an authority figure look like? It's a coach, right? It's not the players, it's the coach is the authority figure, right? And then there's a hierarchy of coaches, right? So that's how you gain authority, is by how you present yourself. If you're in business, it's probably being in the suit and the tie and doing the whole nine, right? If you're in personal training, if you're a personal trainer, it's probably having the six pack and having the big ass biceps and the triceps and the traps, right? So how can you look like an authority figure in your arena? The next one, social proof, is very easy, right? How can you get other people to tell how great you are, how great your product or service is. The more people that you can get to say that, the more likely people will believe it. The next one, consistency. How can you use consistency? It's simple. You want to get people to state something as a belief or as a fact or as a truth. And then when it comes down to the decision making point, you re-emphasize the fact that they said that. So at the very beginning of a conversation, you might say, so let me ask you something. If I can show you how this product or service can do this for you, and and can fit inside of your budget, then will you move forward and make a buying decision today, right? And if they say yes, then your job becomes to prove that your product or service can do what you said it's going to do and sell it at a price point that they can afford. And then at the end, if they still say no, then you can come back to the fact that, hey, at the beginning of this, you told me that if I could do this and show you this in a price point that works for you, that you would move forward. So then, were you lying to me, or was there something that I missed? And now the person either has to say that they were lying, or that they have to move forward, right? Or they give you one other objection to overcome. That's how you use consistency. How do you use liking? Well, we're going to talk about rapport in a later lesson, but liking is simple. It's exactly what it sounds like. If you can get people to like you, right? If you can get people to like you, then you can use that relationship. You can use that connection to get them to take an action. And then how can you use scarcity? Scarcity is very powerful, and it's very simple. Make it seem like it's rare. Make it seem like it's hard to come by. Make it seem like it's hard to get. And that's how you use these 6 factors of influence. Now, this is only the very beginning of this course. We're going to dive deep into a lot of other factors of influence and just outside of these things. But these are the main 6 categories that we're going to take a look at in this lesson. So I hope you got some value out of this, and this gave you some insight into how powerful this stuff is. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.